Miracles We Have Seen, Chapter 12. Miracle of the Lost Airplane. The little DC-3 climbed high into the sky over the barren desert of northern Chile. It needed as much altitude as possible in order to pass over the snow-capped Andes, towering above 20,000 feet. The engines strained in the oxygen-thin air as it pointed its nose toward La Paz, the capital city of Bolivia. The purpose of my journey was to make plans to leave Chile, where Winona and I had labored for 1 year, in the seaport of Arica. Now God had called us to a new harvest field, near the Aymara Indians in Bolivia. This flight was my first trip in the airplane. This flight was my first trip to the Altiplano, the high plain country of South America. The trip normally took about 1 hour to fly from that little desert airport in Chile to the highest capital city in the world. Suddenly, the tiny DC-3 with twin-prop airplane encountered a heavy tropical storm as we neared the snow-capped peaks. The wind and turbulence caused the plane to toss with severe jolts and a bucking motion. The plane started to lose altitude. The pilot was aware that the highest peaks were still thousands of feet above the plane, and his vision was now totally obscured. Those were the days before much of today's sophisticated radar had been implemented in South American airlines. This pilot needed a visual heading. The plane continued to descend. Everyone was aware that we were likely to crash. I began to pray. I asked the Lord to please spare the plane and me, as we needed to share His love and message with the Bolivians. I felt a warm sense of peace in my heart. That was a miracle in itself. I had always felt a measure of anxiety in an airplane, even on a calm flight. Today was more like a roller coaster ride, with death waiting at the craggy rocks beneath the storm-tossed plane. "Help, Lord," I cried after a few more minutes of the jolting, rolling, and falling. Something mysterious happened. A sudden break opened in the rolling clouds, and we could see immediately the ground below us. We stared in utter disbelief. We were now flying in a valley between two tall snow-capped peaks, and with only a few hundred feet above the ground. Now the pilot could see. Pulling back on the controls, he guided the plane through the valley that had miraculously opened between the rocky cliffs. Soon we reached the flatlands of the Bolivian high plains. The weather was now clear. We were safe. We all breathed a sigh of relief and thanksgiving. I gave fervent praise and worship to the Lord who was, and remains, the master of all storms. Soon we were on the ground, and the small Chilean DC-3 taxied to La Paz International Airport. Feelings of joy welled up in my heart. We had been saved from certain death. How could I ever explain that episode? And who would believe the Lord would direct an airplane to the one available tunnel through the clouds and mountain peaks? I knew that I would never forget that incredible event. I knew that we had been spared a tragic disaster. A few days later, we received a letter from a friend who wrote on a certain date, time, etc. I felt a need to pray for you. I sensed you were in great danger. When I checked the date and time that she indicated, it was precisely the time of our crisis in the storm. Our God is a God of miracles. He is the same today. He performed that wonderful miracle high in the Andes by sparing a little storm-tossed airplane from imminent destruction. I believe He will do the same for you in the midst of your storm. Here is a promise for you to claim today. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Oh, thank you for listening to Papa's Miracle Stories. The Lord bless.